Webflow is now the official sponsor of Awwwards, and it's sending the completely wrong message to designers and developers alike in the community, and I have a massive problem with it. So let's dig into it. Okay, so this is gonna be a little bit of drama, but I mean, you know me, let's cause some drama. I'm here for it. Awwwards is a platform that basically highlights what they call the best of the best on the internet, and specifically websites, of course. Generally, from looking at the websites on the Awwwards platform, they have a very high focus on design. And when I say design, I mean flashy graphics, mind-boggling 3D elements flying over the screen everywhere, flying across the screen at all times, everywhere, all at once. And honestly, if you ask me, it's a bit of a motion sickness inducing experience a lot of the time. And while that is impressive to build, I don't know if I would be able to build all of those different experiences. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is a good website. Because what makes a good website? A good website should serve specific purposes. So if you are running a business that are organizing events, you want people to contact you for these event organizing services. And if your website is not serving that purpose, then, well, it's not a good website. Flashy graphics does not mean a good website necessarily, and that is my sort of pain point with Awwwards. While Awwwards is a good platform to highlight impressive designs, it is not the platform where good websites are highlighted. And that brings me to the problem with Awwwards. First of all, you have to pay to be listed on Awwwards. I believe it's $60 to submit the website to their platform, and that doesn't even guarantee that your website will be listed. It's simply a submission, and then it needs to be accepted as well. So that's point number one. You have to pay to be listed. Like it's essentially pay to win. And there's a higher tier where you can be listed in more categories as well. So already that removes a large chunk of the community that simply probably doesn't have the funds to pay for a listing or a submission. And point number two, Awwwards, because of the points I said earlier, it incentivizes UI over UX. And if you ask me, as a professional web designer and developer, UX should always be the number one priority in everything you do at all times. You can have a website that has shitty UI, but if the UX serves the purpose of that specific website, it is, in my opinion, still a successful, good, and well-made website. Because like I said earlier, the only purpose your website most often needs to serve is to fulfill your business objectives. For example, my personal website has the only purpose of one, showcasing my work, and two, having people contact me. That's the two purposes. And I have a massive focus on serving those two purposes. You can't find much more information about me other than those two things. You can't take many actions apart from those two things. I don't have flashy graphics. I don't have motion sickness inducing graphics flying across the screen at all times. I have a very focused experience. And some may call that boring or non-impressive or just plain bad, but I would argue the opposite, because again, it's serving my purpose. And so having this focus on UI over UX also sends the wrong message to aspiring developers and designers in the Webflow community. Because when Webflow officially sponsors Awwwards as a platform, it also gives a stamp of approval to Awwwards as a platform, saying, hey, we, Webflow, the massive product we are, approve of this platform and your practices. And so aspiring Webflow users, whether it be developers or designers, see this and go, hey, okay, so this is what I should be creating. Well, that is not at all necessarily the experience that you should be making. Okay, so that's the problem, but we need to solve it as well. So how do we go about changing these to incentivize the, in my opinion, correct? I would say that if you take a look on the current Awwwards platform, the way it works is that users, by paying, submit their website, and then they have a link they can share with their audience or whoever they want to go and vote on that website. And whichever website has the most votes at the, I believe, end of the month is submitted to the jury, and then the jury has the final say and final approval in which website becomes sort of website of the month. Now they have other competitions as well, but that's the general sort of way it works. And already that is an issue, because very similar to Dribble, another design platform, it's more or less just a sort of portfolio page. So you have the color palette, you have some screenshots, you have a link to the website, you have a general overview of the project. But nowhere, at least from my experience when I've been looking at this, nowhere is it said what the actual purpose of this website is, which in my opinion, again, is like the only thing that should matter for a website, is serving its purpose. But there's nowhere to be seen. It's just a brief description of the website, but not what the goal was with creating this website. And so users see this and they see a vote button, and if they click vote, it brings the website higher in the listings, but they don't know what they're voting on. Like, what are we voting on? Are we voting on the best graphics, the coolest, flashiest animations? Are we voting on the fastest loading website? All of these have very, very specific and different approaches to them. And so you can't just have a button saying vote, because that could mean so many different things. And one person seeing this preview page may think of one thing when they click vote, while another person may think of another thing when they click vote. And so the whole thing just becomes this sort of mix of different objectives of these votes, or the different purposes of these votes, different reasons for these votes. So what they should do is instead of having just a general overview of the website with color palettes and screenshots and whatnot, they should have, hey, vote on this website based on this criteria. And then they go, okay, so this website was posted to the category high conversion rates, for example. And so then you vote on this website based on your knowledge as a UX and UI designer. Hey, this website will perform bad or good based on my knowledge of UX best practices. And then that forms a cohesive and sort of one reason why a person would vote on the website, instead of all of these different reasons I mentioned earlier. Like, that's the only way I can see Awwwards as a platform becoming, in my opinion, respectable. Because again, while they do feature some really cool websites, that doesn't mean that they're good. I'm sorry. And a lot of the time, these flashy animations of these websites that are submitted on Awwwards barely load on lower performance machines. Okay, anyway, this is sort of a growing trend that I see in the UI UX sort of community, because platforms like Awwwards and Dribble are growing in population and growing in user base. People are creating designs specifically for these platforms. They're not creating designs for the end user necessarily. We're creating designs for designers. We just create this sort of bubble of like, hey, what are we even doing? What is the goal with this? Because clients doesn't necessarily want these flashy things. They want a site. They want a design that serves their purpose. I've been saying purpose over and over and over, but that's really it. That's all there is to it. And so as the barrier to entry lowers with all of these different low/no code products releases like Webflow, Framer, and Bubble and so on, with the barrier to entry lowering with these platforms, we need to remember that UX is all that matters. Because at the end of the day, users are what will be using your products and your platforms. So don't forget about the user's experience as well. Alright, that's been it. See you in the next one.